Wales is an ancient country, rich in mythology, but few people know that amongst the legends of dragons and warrior kings, there are contemporary stories of very real monsters. The 15th century Welsh poet Lewis Glencothi wrote about the Ifanc, the legendary monster of Llangorse Lake, but 400 years later, in 1999, the lake made newspaper headlines across the world with the story of Darren Blake, a water skier allegedly attacked here by a giant fish. Could these stories be true? This carving of a pike in the thick reed beds of the lake is a perfect place to start our investigation. When I first came to Llangorse as a child, I heard local tales about the monster that lurks deep in the crystal clear waters. The locals told me of giant pike which swam there. The largest pike ever caught in Britain, a whopping 68-pounder, was caught here in 1846, and other large pike have been caught here regularly ever since. Most recently, a 36-pounder caught by Metropolitan Policeman Rob Bending in 2004. What is it that makes the fish in this lake grow so large? Could these large fish be the origin of the legend of the Ifanc? At the time he was attacked, Darren Blake was staying at this caravan site. I spoke to the landlord, Mike Tunnicliffe. The story of the fellow who got attacked by the pike.
Yeah.
Was that the incident involving the water skier in 1999?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, he was attacked just by the cranog down on the lake, and he was basically his foot was sort of was bitten, and his entire foot was taken into the pike's mouth, and around his ankle he'd got all the bite marks, all the teeth marks in there. And in fact, just a few weeks ago, somebody was attacked by one, and the tooth was left in his hand, which is quite interesting.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Do you know what happened to the tooth?
In fact, it's a very good friend of mine, and I will get it for you.
In Victorian times, there was allegedly a pike caught in Llangorse by a Mr. Owen.
Yeah.
Could you tell me a bit more about that?
Yeah, all we know about that one is, in fact, it was my wife's great-grandfather who was down there. Actually, we've hired out boats and fishing on Llangorse Lake for over 200 years. And he was down there the day it was caught. And it was caught on goldfish. And I think it was about 47, something like that. Is it 47, 48 pound in weight? It's in the Bullock's Book of Giant Pike or something like that, and there is a photograph of him there as well. It's pretty impressive. But the boatman at the time was my wife's great grandfather, which is quite cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Could you tell me anything about the legends of Llangorse, and specifically about Gorsey?
Yeah, well, Gorsey goes back for Llangorse Lake is the only cranog in Wales or England, which is a man-made island. There's several in Scotland, and there's loads in Ireland. And going back to there, which is I think it's about 700 AD. There was a piece of tartan found on the island by the time team. That tartan was sent away to Cardiff University, where it's been looked after and preserved. And when it came back, it's actually got pictures of which you could call serpents on there, on the tartan.
Yeah.
And so, if you think about it, that's going back, 1,500 years. So 1,500 years ago, there was probably legends going back then of large serpents. I can't see any reason why the kings and queens of Brycheiniog would have a tartan, which they believe is the first Welsh tartan ever to be manufactured, have pictures of serpents on it. It's quite weird, isn't it, really? Yeah. And it was a serpent. And then with the Gorsey thing, we'd heard about that from years and years ago. I mean, my wife's grandfathers have been hiring out boats down there for years and years and years, and they've heard of some huge fish down there, you know. And there is links with the sea. There's words of like underground tunnels going out into the ocean, because Llangorse Lake has a salty content to it, which is quite weird for an inland waterway.
Yeah.
I think that's why the waterway authorities do lots of testing down here. I don't know, but it's plausible. You think with Loch Ness, where's that come from?
Yeah.
You almost think that they could be going in and out of the city. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. But you think there's got to be something more there, hasn't it? Because it's not there all the time.
Yeah.
But then you do get reports of large fish,
Yeah.
especially by the fishermen, especially in the winter, actually, when it's cold. Well, item 2, large map, dated 1584. And this map was produced over an argument on the eel rights for Llangorse Lake. Llangorse Lake's always been produced large eels. Now, professional eel fishermen came down here about 10 years ago, and he was getting them out there about 7 pounds in weight, which is approximately 5 foot in length, which is a very large eel. And like you were talking to me earlier about your theories on Loch Ness Monster, it rings true, doesn't it?
Yeah.
How do they get that big? And that would be a very old eel, basically. So I don't know, but there's a lot of eel in Llangorse Lake, a lot.
Yeah.
And when the eel man left, he put 2 million back in. So there's a lot of eel in there, and he was using huge nets. He netted the whole place. He was running along all the trenches that I was telling you about. He mapped them all out, and he had all these nets going all along the trenches. The nets were like 100 metres long, and he was getting some pretty impressive eels out of them. So that's the eel thing.
Okay.
Dr. Mike's assistant Marie's coming down now, actually, and she'll talk to you for a little while if you want to.
Okay.
And she's great.
Would you like to tell me about the sighting that you had?
Yeah, it was about 20 years ago. Me and Mike, Dr. Mike, went out to the lake. At the time we were shooting, so we had took one of the boats out, took the 3 Labradors with us, and we were in the exclusion zones. Because we run the lake, we were allowed to go into them. So we were just rowing around there, and all of a sudden the dogs went absolutely mental and started to jump into the water. And there was actually this huge serpent lying on top of the water. And when the dogs jumped in on it, our main dog Iggy tried to jump onto the fish, but then it just went. But it was just this huge splash went underneath the boat, and it was gone. But it was amazing. I think that's what started Mike off on his sort of like crusade for Llangorse, really, wasn't it? With this gorsey thing, because it was actually Mike who came up with the idea of maybe a gorsey thing, wasn't it? Mm. Yeah, that's my one and only sighting. But my wife did see a duck taken once, so that was pretty impressive as well. So I think there's a few bits and bobs around the place. Have you seen anything, Marie?
No, not personally. Just pike carcasses that have obviously, suffered traumatic injury.
Yeah.
But we've never actually seen what's inflicted it.
Wailing women.
That's another local legend. Yeah.
Hey, would you like to tell me about these whaling women?
Marie will, yeah. Marie's very good at that one. That's one of your favourites.
No, not one of my specialties.
Yeah, it is. Go on.
No, really.
No, apparently.
I've never actually heard the Wailing Woman myself.
Me and Mike have.
I know you have, yeah.
No, apparently in the winter when it's all quiet and dark, and the mist's over the lake, late in the evenings, like 2-3 o'clock, you can hear this wailing noise coming from the lake, which I assume is probably when there were these like sacrificial stuff going on the Crannog in the 6th century AD, where they reckon there is a wailing woman down at the shore. I don't know. We've heard it. Well, lots of locals have heard it, but where's not? It's another thing for you to investigate, isn't it? Really?
Yep.
Yeah. And that's actually a true one.
Yeah.
So that'd be quite interesting to do.
Okay, and anything about the village there as well?
No, I don't know. Marie's the sunken village person, aren't you?
Well, I mean, there are, again, a local legend has it that there is a village at the bottom of the lake, and that on dark and windy nights you can actually hear the church bells. And a number of locals have claimed that they have in fact heard those bells, but we've yet to find any evidence that is in fact the case.
Back on the lake, and I tried my hand at fishing for a few hours without any luck. However, Mike has invited the CF said to go back next year en masse, and I have high hopes of a good result, especially in view of the bombshell Mike dropped just as I was leaving.
Just
Hold that for you?
like to hold it there. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, could you tell me how you came across that?
Okay, we were going down in the morning, just checking the lake as we usually do, and then on the side by our roundhouse there was a like a large pike mask, obviously being washed up in the evening, and it was approximately, you can see the skull there, it's approximately anything between 14 to 18 inches in length for just the skull. So presumably the actual fish would be sort of like between 4.5, 5 feet in length, which with a pike would be, I don't know, 50 pounds probably, maybe more. But the interesting thing was, is it looked like it had been attacked by something else, which was at the time quite interesting. And so this was taken away by the Rivers Authority to go and do tests on to see what sort of size and age it could be, which is basically the skull.
What size would you estimate that it was in total then?
Well, there was a tail section down there, and Dr. Mike, who's a friend of mine, came down to look at it, and we estimated between about 5 foot in length.
By anyone's standards, that is one hell of a fish. When you consider all that I've discovered just in a few days, we at the CF said would be crazy to ignore Llangorse Lake. There are big eels, giant pike, whaling women, and even the elusive gorsey. Some years ago, the CF said started the Big Fish project to catalogue reports of outsized freshwater fish. 2007 looks like it will be a fantastic year for the project, with a repeat visit to Llangorse, our work in the Lake District, and of course, a return to Llangorse Lake.